When you open Craft and Cut software, this page usually opens. And if you're like me, you might automatically, by habit, close it. But let me just show you some great things about this screen. First of all, webinars. I mentioned that when DJ asked if I had anything I wanted to add. So if you click on webinars, this will take you to some past webinars for heat transfer vinyl or glass etching. So if you missed them because 4 o'clock isn't the easiest time for you to attend, or you want to watch this again, that's where you'll find that. Also, if the webinar schedule, you can click on this icon, and just to show you, we're on Starlight, Starbright, but on December 5th, I've got a special December webinar from you called Embellish It. And I got to be honest, when we picked these titles months and months ago, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. It's just whatever I'm inspired with at that time. But today, all day, we've been preparing for the December 5th. So register early. You're not going to want to miss this. It's a great home deck idea with a full project that we'll post on my Facebook page. So we've got some software videos. Now, if you have questions about Craft and Cut, maybe you think something isn't working the way that it should, or you have a question about an update, or a question about how many computers can you put Craft and Cut on, which the answer is 2, by the way, you can click on Support Ticket, and this screen will pop up. You'll make sure you have your serial number, the operating system, and fill all of this out, and don't forget to hit Submit. And that's how, and Liz and a couple of the girls at the office will be happy to help you. Also, several of you have asked, is there a manual? And thanks to DJ, here is a manual you can access. So let me close this screen and get started. Actually, under Help, another question I get asked all the time is, how do I know if I have the latest update? Well, you can go under Help and check for updates. And when you do this, it'll let you know that there's a different version of Craft and Cut for you to download, or you've got the latest version. All right, let's get started. I'm going to go to my PowerPoint show, and I'm going to go back and forth from Craft and Cut to the PowerPoint. So I thought I'd put some fun Christmas colors up here, and let's talk about what you can do with Craft and Cut to make quick, easy, in the hoop projects. Yes, machine embroidery in the hoop. And not only that, you can go a step further and you can embellish your fabric or create special fabric for your in the hoop projects. This is a project we just completed at Continental Sewing. Hey ladies, and all my friends from Be Sew In. We did this project, and I want to show you how we created the project. And what you're looking at is a little gift card or a business card or a credit card holder. Now this is a faux buttonhole. There's a little Velcro dot underneath here, but it's sitting on foiled fabric. And if you're not familiar with foil, one of the questions I got asked at Be Sew In this weekend was, could you explain a little more about the foil, what it is, and how I use it? So I thought Sparkle, Starlight, Starbright, you get a lot of dramatic effect with foil, and it works like heat transfer adhesive, except it's 2 steps. So the screen that you're looking at just shows you it usually will come on a roll, and there's all kinds of colors, and you can apply it to fabric or a t-shirt. And how you're going to use foil, this was a previous webinar where I did the crop t-shirt, and I'm not sure if this was, I think this was 2 webinars ago, so you can go back and watch that webinar, and I have foil and adhesive, and that's a picture of me removing it. So heat transfer effects on fabric or t-shirt. You're going to use this foil in conjunction with a clear heat transfer adhesive, and sometimes this is called CAD Cut heat press adhesive, or it could be called Easy Weed heat transfer adhesive. Now where you find that is you're probably just going to do a search on Google to find a local supplier or an online supplier for this. And your application instructions are this. You're going to cut the adhesive with a digital cutter. Make sure you mirror image your design. Then you're going to weed the clear heat transfer adhesive. Now, this is not for the faint of heart. I would start really simple, like the crop design, crop t-shirt from 2 webinars ago, rather than just jump right in to the project for this month, because weeding is a little difficult with a clear adhesive versus a black or a colored adhesive. It's not hard, it just takes more time. And those of us over 30 sometimes don't see as well as we used to. So make sure you're fresh and ready to go when you weed this. Now, once you've weeded it, you're going to apply the sticky side to your fabric or your t-shirt, and you're going to heat press the adhesive for 5 seconds at about 300 degrees at a medium pressure. And really important, you're going to peel away the carrier sheet while it's still hot. Now, if you don't have a heat press, you can use an iron, and you'll want to set that to about a cotton setting and use some pressure for that. And basically, you're just pressing it enough so the adhesive comes off the release paper and onto your fabric. The 4th step is you're going to lay the matte side. Notice where my mouse is, this is the shiny side of the foil, and that's going to be looking at you, and the dull side is going to touch your adhesive. You're going to then cover it with a non-stick cover sheet and press for 10 seconds. But now, instead of peeling it hot, you're going to wait for it to cool, and you're going to remove it. So that's how you add foil to fabric. You're going to need heat transfer adhesive. And that's what we've done here. We've used silver foil. Here's a couple pictures of our project. The fabric, you can see a tonal effect here, and that's because we've already heat pressed the clear adhesive to our blue fabric. Then we've laid the dull side down on top of the fabric, covered it with a cover sheet, a non-stick cover sheet, heat pressed it for 10 seconds, wait till it cools off, and then when we remove the excess foil, it's shown here in this next picture. Now, I'm going to stop right here and kind of advance, because we'll come to that picture after I show you how to create your In the Hoop project. So foil, ladies and gentlemen, another application for foil in Craft and Cut is, did you know that you can export an image? You can print it with a laser printer or a copy machine with black toner, and that's shown here. And then you can actually foil cardstock and make your own gift tags or cards or whatever you'd like using a heat press. So let me show you how this works. Number one, super important, is you are definitely going to need to print your image with toner. And I'm going to show you how to do that in Craft and Cut when we go to the software. So toner would not be inkjet. That doesn't work. It's going to be black toner. And that would be a laser copy machine, a laser printer, or you could go to Office Depot or FedEx copy store, Staples, and just use their big copy machines. That's toner as well. And what I've done here is I've laid down my foil, again, the matte side, shiny side is looking at me. I'm going to cover it with a press cloth. Go back one. You can see I use a craft paper press cloth, and I'm going to press it for at 300 degrees for 12 seconds. I am going to let it cool completely, and then I remove the foil, and the foil reacts with the toner and sticks to it. Now, if you want to get vintage or get jiggy with it, here's one of my favorite applications. And by the way, you can do this application with the heat transfer adhesive on fabric or on toner and cardstock. So this is, I'm going to pick 2 colors of foil. The first one I'm going to crinkle in my hands several times. And if you look really close, you can see a lot of the foil is coming off as sparkles on my hand. So I'm going to wad it up and crinkle it 2 or 3 times. I'm going to lay it flat over my design, cover it with a press sheet, press for 12 seconds, allow it to cool, and remove the foil. And what happens is I'm going to have holes and some toner still exposed. So then I'm going to take a second color, and I do not crinkle it. I just lay it flat over and press it with a cover sheet at 300 degrees for 12 seconds. Allow it to cool. Now here is something, oops, go back here, really fun. I woke up this morning and some of my greatest ideas come in the middle of the night. The only problem is sometimes I can't remember what they were, but at the moment it always seems genius. But you know as good as I do, sometimes the genius ideas, they really aren't that great, but this one was so awesome. So what I did is I took fabric and I foiled it using Quilter Select Applistick. Or maybe you have Floriani's Applique Wonder, and that's a fusible, repositionable webbing that you use for applique. But it actually works with foil, so you don't have to go and purchase the adhesive. You can use what's probably in your embroidery room right now. So let me show you how this works. You're going to take your fabric, and we had some houndstooth Christmas fabric here in the warehouse, and we ironed the applistick to the wrong side of the fabric, put it on our mat, and you can cut this out with any digital cutter. We happen to have a scan and cut set upstairs. And notice the snowflake. Now, good news, this snowflake is a free design. I'm going to show you how to create this. So we've got paper, release paper on the back of the fabric, and we're going to score it and remove it. And here's what we're seeing right here. We're going to remove the adhesive. Then we're going, now notice we put the adhesive on the back because I thought this would be a great Christmas tree ornament. And as it moves and shifts a little bit like ornaments do sometimes, it'll have pretty red fabric on the back and silver foil on the front. So I'm going to cover it with foil, the same application, dull side touching the Quilter Select Applistick, cover it with a press cloth, heat press it for 12 seconds, allow it to cool, and then I'm going to remove the excess foil. And then when I do, I get this spectacular effect. Now, I just want to let you know, if you kind of are intrigued by foil before we go to Craft and Cut, I did do another webinar using Deco Magic, foil, cardstock, and rhinestones, and you can get all the directions here, as well as going to my private fan group page and to get the files. There was a second bookmark. And if you've not joined my fan group, I had to start a private fan group, and the reason why is it's the only way on Facebook that I can give you free files. You have to have a private group. So if you're not already a member of this, search for Designs by Hope Yoder fan group, and I'm going to post all of the files from today's webinar there as well. So let's go to Craft and Cut. So now I'm in Craft and Cut, and let me just show you the snowflake to start with. If you haven't already done so, you can load the free 264 designs that came in your Craft and Cut box into the pink Hope Yoder library. And I've already done that, so my library is full of designs. Now, if your library is empty, you're going to put the CD into your computer or transfer the files onto your hard drive, the 264. Then you'll come into File and import Hope Yoder designs and find that CD or those saved files and select them all and open, and then it'll fill your library like mine. So the snowflake design is actually inside of this library, and we'll scroll down. I can select the letter S on my keyboard to get close. Hey, there's a Santa's hat. Oops, that is not what I meant to show you. Oh, here was something I was working on earlier today, playing around. These designs are actually free in the Hope Yoder library, but let's go back to that snowflake. And the snowflake is here. So I'm going to click on him and or her, and she opens into Craft and Cut. First thing I'm going to do is check the size. And I made my snowflake pretty big. So I'm going to make sure maintain aspect ratio is selected. And then I'm going to select the number 5 for 5 inches. If you're not sure if you're in inches, when you look here, I've got inches selected. Now I'll select apply. When we look at this over in the layers window, there's actually 2 snowflakes. Here's the bottom layer, and if I hide that, I can show you the top layer. Now this is a little more intricate, and I know this is probably not going to cut very well. So it's simple. What I did is I deleted this section in the layers. So I'm going to select layer 2, and then I will right click with my mouse and left click on delete. And that leaves me with this snowflake. Let me go back to the PowerPoint so you can see my snowflake design. And I didn't change any of the holes. It cut really well. So the snowflake, I'm going to cut out of fabric, and pretty much that's all I want to do with it. So if you've not worked in Craft and Cut before, how do I get this snowflake from my screen to my digital cutter? And furthermore, I don't know what to put the blade on or the speed or the pressure. So the good news is Save to Cut is going to generate all of that information for you. So you'll select Save to Cut. You have 4 choices of cutters that we have all the settings embedded into the Save to Cut. We'll leave it at Scan and Cut, and the material you want to cut out. And we're actually going to be cutting a cotton fabric, which is the same thing as batik with applistick. So all I have to do is answer 2 easy questions. When I select Next, this tells me what mat to use, what blade, the depth to start at, the speed and the pressure. Even more importantly, this is so awesome for those of you who haven't used your cutter very much or Craft and Cut. It gives me application instructions. So it's going to tell me Iron Quilter Select Applistick to the back of the fabric. Leave the release paper on and place paper side down on the mat. And here's a YouTube video you can click on, and this will take you right to a video showing you how to cut fabric. Did that wake you up? It did me. I'm going to select Finish, and we'll name this something simple. Now notice here, Save as Type. Because I selected a Scan and Cut, it's going to give me the language, the FCM language for my Scan and Cut. When I select Finish, it saved the files for me, and it creates this great template. Notice scale. This is actually 100% size. If your design is smaller than a sheet of paper, it usually will generate at 100%, but be sure to check here. Now it tells me the actual size of the design. And folks, what I use this for is I will just add an inch to the height and to the width to cut out my fabric and my applistick. All of those same settings are generated here. Now at this point, I'm just going to copy that FCM file from the folder onto my USB stick, put it in my Scan and Cut, and cut it out. That is the snowflake. What do you think? I hope you like that. Let's go to something else. Okay, now the baby, it's cold outside. Here's how I created that. I'm going to use some text. We have text that's straight, on a circle, vertical, or on a path. And I'm just going to use some straight text. And if I come over to my properties window, I'm going to select the TTF, which stands for True Type Font. And I get to ask this all the time. One of my most used True Type font is Magnolia Sky. And I'm going to put, baby, it's cold outside. I type that in, and don't forget to hit apply. Now let's come in here and notice all these nodes. These letters are pretty far apart. So on the little blue diamond, I can easily bring these together. Now I don't need to weld these together because I'm going to be creating an image. that I'm going to print on cardstock. So this will be the foiled cardstock design. And just drag these however you want them. Finish this up here. And I want it to look like a cursive font. So I'm not cutting them out, so I don't need to worry about if they're overlapping. This is going to be printed on a laser printer. And we'll just keep going here. And this is Magnolia Sky. When I want to get out of this mode, I can go ahead and click off, but look what's happening here. I've got a white area that's showing. So to get back in here, I get asked this all the time, I can't find those nodes. What you're going to want to do is select your text and go back up into the text mode, and then they reappear. So anywhere I see white, I'm just going to move the letter so it doesn't overlap. Good to know how to fix that. If you're printing an image, now the reason why, I don't know if this is why, but I would think the reason why it turns white is if we were cutting out, then that white area is going to be a problem. But since we're not cutting out, worry about that. And one more. All right. Now I'm going to select the red arrow. The shortcut, I can select the magnifying glass to get it full screen. And let's come back over to our snowflake. I'm going to undo this so I can select this inner portion. And I'm going to right click to copy it. I'll come back to this page. I'll right click to paste it. Notice how small that is. And I just put a couple snowflakes. Now I can copy it and come here and come here. And let's copy one more, and let's make this one really small. And I don't really need to worry about how big the snowflakes are because I'm not cutting them out. I'm just going to print them. Well, let's say I like the way that looks. I'm going to find black and turn everything into black. Let's get this little snowflake off and resize him a little bit. All right, if I like the way that looks, I'm going to select all items. Now I could size this the way that I want here. So for a little gift card, we'll just leave it because with my printer settings, I can change the size. Now I don't run this through Save to Cut. Are you ready for this magic? File, Export Image. And I have a folder set up here on my very organized, probably not, desktop. Let me come into November. And we'll say baby. And notice save as type. A PNG is my preference. And the PNG means it's going to cut the white box background away. And that's what I want. I'm going to select save. And then I'm going to keep this at the default and say OK. Now let's go find that image here. And we go into the webinar, and we'll come into November's webinar and the test. Here's my PNG file. To print this, remember it's got to be toner. I'm going to double click, and you'll want to make sure, now this is at 100% scale, but on most printers, I could say I want 4 copies of this, and it's awfully close together, so I can select scale and change this. This would be great gift cards. And then I can just go ahead and print this on my laser printer and then foil it like we showed you from before. So we'll save this little file for you, and I'll put that on my fan group. You might like that. All right, now for the drum roll for the final fun that we're going to have. Let's come to a brand new page. Now for In the Hoop project. Let me go back to the PowerPoint to show you the steps for this. So this is what my finished card looks like. And there's actually 3 pieces of fabric. We have the outer fabric, which we foiled. I have, and this fabric is roughly, you could probably cut it about 7 or 8 inches square, and that'll give you plenty of excess. So I'm going to foil the front piece of fabric. The back lining piece of fabric is not foiled. And then the pocket, I'm going to cut the same size, and I'm going to fold it in half and press it. And the top fold will be the pocket area. So I'm going to want a tack down straight stitch, and I will lay my front, and this is my lining back. And I have again have used a tie-back material, but I would probably just use the same blue that's not foiled. And the pocket is folded in half, and right along here is the fold line. All right, let me come back and let's create it. So a couple things I'm going to want to do to create an In the Hoop project, which is basically going to be straight stitches and applique, is I am going to change my settings. So if you'll travel up to your program preferences, open this up and go to the grid section. I'm not sure what your grid is on, but I'm going to want to change this to a 1/2 inch. It's easy to work with. So I'm going to type in 0.5 horizontal and vertical. The next thing I want to do is under options, I want to select snap to grid. And snapping to grid, let me show you what happens if I don't have it selected first. Let's select OK, and you can travel over to the left to turn your grid on. Whoops. Let me get this to something a little smaller, and we'll turn the grid on. Well, I don't have snap to grid, and I'm going to use the lines, the line tool. And if I were to come here and here and here and here and here, I'm going to have a very ugly house design. I don't really want that. Notice how the line isn't level. So if I come to a new page, and we'll go back into the preferences and to grid, and I'm going to want to snap to grid. And I'm going to do 0.5. Oh, that's what the problem was. I had my settings wrong. And OK. And now I've got grid settings showing up here. Now, if I go back and I select my line, really what I want to do is draw straight line. And if I snap to grid, where if I don't click exactly on that intersection, notice, let me zoom in for you here, it automatically is going to click. So I'm not on that intersection, but when I left click, it slings it to that intersection. And that's what I want. So I get a nice symmetrical design. I'm going to left click here. And let me zoom out so you can see this. Let's come a little bigger. Let me go to 100%. And now I'm going to come up. I'm going to make a house, a symmetrical house this time. I'm going to left click everywhere. And then when I end back at my starting point, then I'm going to right click. Let me undo that again to show you one more time. I'm using the line tool. And I'm going to left click here, and I'm counting over 1, 2, 3 boxes. So to center. So I'll go 3 more boxes here, and I'll left click. I'll come up, and I'm in the center. I'm going to left click. I'm going to come down, left click, and to end this, I'm going to right click. So let's turn our grid off. There's my little business card holder or credit card holder. Let me fill it in with color so you can see what that looks like. Now I want to make a couple different copies of this before I begin turning it into machine embroidery stitches. To do that, I select this icon and let's just change colors. We'll make that box one color. I'm going to duplicate this again and we'll make this a different color. Now I've got 3 boxes here. Let me select all items and I'm going to center them all on top of each other. To do that, click on the down arrow on this icon and travel all the way to the right. Got them all on top of each other. I've right-clicked to collapse all items. Now just to show you where I'm going, right now I'm just creating the in the hoop design. But where I'm going with it is in the Hope Yoder library that you've hopefully loaded, the free designs that came with your craft and cut. I'm going to look for the weld repeat design and click on it. And I've got this design over here, that's the foil. Does that look familiar? Check this out. Let's come back here and look at the image. And same image. So I didn't really do anything to this. This is a graphic square design that's been welded together. So I'm going to hide this for now and let's change the credit card shape. I'm going to select all items because I want to change all 3 of those shapes. Come into your properties window and select transform. And to make a credit card case, the size that I like is 3. Oh, actually, let me stop here. Maintain aspect ratio. We had that with the snowflake, but I want to deselect that now. I don't want it to stay proportional. So my width is 3.85 and the height is going to be 4.5 and I'm going to select apply. Perfect. Now when I turn this foil design back on and lay it over here, I need this design. Let's change it so it's something a little lighter. So I need this foil design to be bigger than my fabric or I'm going to have a blank area. So we're going to come into transform and let's just go 120% and apply. Oh, you know what? Let's hit undo. Transform and I'm going to select maintain aspect ratio. Let's try 125% and apply. That looks good. Notice I've got excess around the design. So I will keep that just like that. I'm going to hide it. Now, are you ready? In the hoop projects, color number 1 or layer number 1. At this point, all of these are just artwork. They're not stitches. I haven't told the software what I want to do yet. So this first shape, I'm going to travel up and select applique. 3D, and let me click off so you can see this. Let's hide the other shapes. Now when I've selected applique, you're only seeing applique in the layers window. But if you travel up to the slow redraw, notice I actually have 3 colors. Color number 1 is the placement line. Color number 2 is the tack down. And color number 3 is the satin stitch. So you've got those there, but in your layers window, it only shows up as applique. Let me zoom in close. So the blue is the placement line and the red is the tack down. And what I want you to notice is Craft and Cut has made the tack down line a little smaller so it catches your pre-cut shape if you're going to cut that out. But I don't want this to be a straight stitch. I actually want it to be a zigzag. So I'm going to select color 1 again, travel up to my properties window, select applique extra, And under tack down, I'm going to, now I could change the stitch length for the placement, and I'm going to change that to 3. And this tack down, I don't want a run stitch, I want a zigzag stitch. So I'm going to select apply. Now watch what happens. There's my placement line, and now my tack down line is a zigzag, and that's going to give me a little more coverage. So for this design, I have an applique. I like that. What I'm going to do is just save this. I don't need to worry about the artwork in this design, because if I save it as an embroidery design, you won't see that portion. So what I'm going to do is File, Save As, and you always want to save as a WAF file. That's your native editable working file. Excuse me. So let's just call this credit card, or a lot of C's, and I'm going to save it as a WAF. Then I'm going to go right back to File, Save As, and now I'm going to save it to whatever format my embroidery machine needs, whether it's JEF, PES. You have all of the common formats here. So let's say we're going to be using a Father Viking today. We'll change this file to VP3 and select Save. So I'm working with a WAF file, but I want to, and you can tell that because it says WAF, but also in the layers window, when I open it, I only have applique. I don't see color 1, 2, and 3. To see those, let's select a new page, File, and we're going to open an embroidery design, and I'm going to find that credit card VP3, and here it previews, and I'm going to select Open. Now let's travel to our layers window and look what we have here. We have 3 colors, 1, 2, and 3. And let's play the slow redraw. And we've got the placement, the tack down, and the satin stitch. Perfect. But I need an area, I need one more straight stitch in here. And let's go back to the PowerPoint to show you this. So on this slide, I want a placement line, and that's where I'm going to lay the front foiled fabric. Now at the same time, I could put a lining fabric on the wrong side of the hoop and tape it in place. And then I could also go back and lay the pocket, but I found it hard to lay the pocket. So after the placement line, I'm going to place the front foiled fabric and the back lining onto the hoop, all right, onto the no-show mesh stabilizer or a soft cutaway stabilizer, and it's going to tack it down. And this is our tack down, and let me hide the areas. So the tack down is a zigzag, but I want one more straight stitch so that I can add, actually I want 2 more straight stitches so that I can actually add my front pocket. So this is a straight stitch. I'm going to duplicate it and duplicate it again. Actually, let me select that and duplicate that one more time. So now I have my original straight stitch, my second straight stitch, and my third. And let me just color these something different. So I'm going to move this up so I have 3 straight stitches in a row. I'm going to select all items and center them again. Now let's do the slow redraw. I have the placement line. And let me do this a little slower. Let's go back here. All right, I have my placement line. At this point, when color 1 is done, I'm going to lay my front foil fabric on the front of the hoop. I only have a soft cutaway hooped. I'm going to also take the hoop off the embroidery arm and tape a lining fabric on the wrong side of the hoop. I'll put the hoop back on, and color 2 will be the tack down line for that. When that is done tacking down, I'm not going to trim anything at this point. I'm going to leave it untrimmed. Now I'm going to take a third piece of fabric that I folded in half, and I want the pocket to be about, let's see, the pocket I want about 2 1/4 inches. So by measuring up here with the ruler, 2 1/4 inches is going to be right below the fold down area. So if you want a little extra room, you could lay your pocket piece just a little bit below this area. So we've got our color 1, color 2, and color 3, we're going to lay our pocket piece, which is folded in half, and the fold is going to go towards the center. Then we're going to come to the tack down, which is color number 4. When the tack down is done, then you would actually take the hoop off the embroidery arm, and then you're going to trim the front, the back, and the pocket. Now notice the pocket is taped to the wrong side of the hoop over your lining. So this is your pocket fabric. The lining is shown in white, and we are looking at the wrong side of the hoop. So after the zigzag is done, you're going to trim both the lining and the pocket on the wrong side of the hoop and the foiled fabric on the right side of the hoop. Let's come back to this, and then we'll do our final satin stitch design. And we'll speed this up. There we go. And then when you're done, you're going to have a beautiful gift holder, credit card holder, money holder that looks like this. Now there is no buttonhole here. We've just used a little Velcro dot, and we've pressed the top over, and then we added just a decorative button for effect, really just for the photograph. I would probably just use a different type of button. What's great is you can give this gift card to your friend, but they can use it as a business card or a credit card holder as well. So now that I have color 1 is a placement line, color 2 is a tack down. After that, I'm going to add the pocket to the back side of the hoop. Color 3 is going to tack that pocket down. Color 4 is going to add some underlay through everything. After color 4, you're going to trim all the excess fabric that sticks out beyond the zigzag. And color number 5 is going to be a satin stitch. So let's finish this design. I'm going to select File, Save As. Now this was not a WAF file, so I'll just save this. And what I'll probably do is put Final, because I added that extra straight stitch, and I'll save it. Perfect. Now let's come back to our welded design. So here is our welded lace. I'm going to hide the rest of these. So all I'm seeing is my welded lace. Now with heat transfer vinyl, you're going to mirror image that, but you're not going to notice a difference on this design. But I'll mirror image it just to show you. Now even though these layers are hidden, these are actually stitches and artwork. We don't really need to get rid of them, but I'll go ahead and do that just so we've got, I can select them all, right click, left click on delete. So I've mirror imaged this. Now I'm going to go back and run it through Save to Cut. You ready? Save to Cut. If I was going to use a silhouette cameo to cut this out, I would then select the type of material I'm going to be cutting, which would be heat transfer vinyl. Select Next. This tells me all my silhouette cameo suggested settings. And a little trick, if I was going to be cutting out of a silhouette cameo and I didn't purchase the extra software for the silhouette, which you don't need that at all, what I would then do is change the save as type to a DXF. And I would save it to welded lace. So notice I'm overriding that and changing for the silhouette to a DXF. And then I've got this template that pops open. Again, I'm going to transfer that design to my cutter and I'll be ready to go. So that, again, is going to give you your finished file. So one last recap. With foil, you're going to cut your heat transfer adhesive, press it onto your fabric, lay the dull side of the foil down, cover it with a press cloth, let it cool before you remove that. And then notice this is the front of the hoop. On the back, you're going to put your lining and your folded pocket before the satin stitch, and after the zigzag, you're going to trim everything, and there you go. Now the files for this card, I'm more than happy to give those to you along with the baby. It's cold outside, and you guys are going to find these tomorrow on my fan group. I'm sorry, I wish I could email them to all of you, but it's just not possible. In fact, I leave to go teach in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin here in a day or two. But when you join my fan group, to find it, search Designs by Hope Yoder fan group, and this is what it looks like. Once you're there, you can select files from a computer, not a cell phone and not a tablet. And here you'll find some freebies that we have for you, including the finished files from today's webinar. So please share this fan group with all your friends. Help us build our fan base so that we can offer even more free designs for you. There's already several past webinar files and a few free embroidery designs. And again, you'll only access this from a computer. You won't see the files, the download files, on a tablet or a cell phone. So until next time, happy crafting, and don't forget that we have one more webinar of the year, and you can find, you can find it here, webinar schedule, once you open Craft and Cut, and you can select the December webinar and register for it now. It's going to be awesome, a free home deck project just in time for winter. So thanks, DJ.
Thank you, Hope, and another great webinar. I know that everyone appreciates it, and we look forward to having everybody back here in December for the next one. So
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy crafting.
Yep, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.